You're listening to the Unbelievers podcast.
There were several groups. One of the principal ones was the reptilians from the Orion complex.
Without any exaggeration, it was like being on fire inside.
Rats were eating them inside.
This stuff was in my mouth. It felt like it was 500 pounds. It was unbelievably hot.
My first question would be, were you a member of the Church of Satan, a card-carrying member of the Church of Satan? I don't understand.
There's always an argument for everything, you know? Just because somebody can fake something doesn't necessarily mean it's
World War, and we found a life form. And that's when I started shitting my pants.
So for the person who called, I am carrying an alien.
An alien baby. We cover it right here, okay?
Something is happening. What is it? That's the question. So do UFOs exist? It depends on what you mean exist.
Unidentified flying objects have been reported in the skies for centuries. The modern age of the UFO began in 1947 when pilot Kenneth Arnold claimed to see a group of 9 high-speed objects near Mount Rainier in Washington. Since then, nearly 13% of Americans have claimed to see or know someone who has witnessed UFOs firsthand, and rarely are they seen by an individual more than once. But in 2016, an extraordinary documentary was released about a man who not only sees UFOs, but sees and films them on a regular basis. Tonight on the Unbelievers podcast, we are honored to be joined by Christo Roppolo from the documentary Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs, as we talk about his amazing sightings and much, much more, right here on the program, where you continue to learn to unlearn everything you know. Hello and welcome to the Unbelievers podcast. I'm your host, Russ Ryan, and today I am joined by my co-host in California, Drea Mora. Hello, Drea.
Hello, Russ.
And in Washington, D.C., my co-host, the hardest working man in podcasting, Jude Prestia. Hello, Jude.
What's up? Hey, everybody.
All right. Great
Hey,
to have
Jude.
you for this. This is going to be a fun one. And our producer and soundboard engineer on the longest island, Rob Okie.
Just like they described in the folklore.
That's him.
What's happening, guys?
Just like it.
What's happening?
Hey.
Good to have you here. So this is a very special episode of the Unbelievers podcast. We are just blessed. Bless up. We are just really excited to have a great interview with Christo Roppolo from the documentary Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs.
Yes.
And such a good documentary that is.
It's probably my favorite documentary that I've watched in like the past probably 10 years. It's really good.
Christo is he's just his whole story and the things that happen around him. It's really remarkable, and you get to hear just a great interview. I mean, he was just so game to talk to us, and I was so happy to talk to him. What about you, Drea?
Yeah, he was just the most approachable person in the world. I mean, we know a lot of people who share our same interests and passions, and, you know, they're one of us and everything. And this is just another example of somebody who is just on the same wavelength and just is down to get into this stuff and loves it.
Yeah, so let's get into it. And here is our interview with the star of Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs, Christo Roppolo. All right, today we are honored to be joined by a producer and star of the documentary Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs, Christo Roppolo. Welcome to the Unbelievers podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and a pleasure to be speaking with you today and your audience.
Well, thank you very much. So one of the first things I want to ask you, now the documentary came out in 2015 or 2016. It was filmed a few years before. I just want to know, just before we get started peppering you with questions, how have things been since the documentary came out? Is there still a lot of activity as far as things you see?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've been posting a lot of stuff. I haven't been posting as much stuff because we've been having these gigantic storms, and I'm in a secret location in the mountains, on a huge property, and I'm very close to the place that I used to be, on the other side of the bay filming. And the the vantage point has only made things even more clear to me. And as a result, some of the sightings, like the one I posted recently, was filmed down at the harbor. And while fishermen were watching me signaling, they were like, "What are you doing with these flashlights, you idiot?" And you're going to scare the fish away, And then, of course, a big giant triangle formation appears in front of us, and then they start leaving,
Yeah.
So
It scared them away.
Some people stand there and they really dig it, and some people don't dig it at all. And, they have different beliefs or what have you, and shaking lights and some invisible thing that suddenly appears out of thin air kind of, it doesn't sit well with everybody. That's why most of the time when I did my sightings, I would go to a location where there would be very few people, but sometimes a vantage point presents itself and you have to go there,
Yeah, and sometimes just being able to film these with the presence of other people, much like in the documentary, that's one of the most compelling things, because you're just grabbing people on the street saying, "You're seeing this, right?" And
yeah, definitely. I brought the people that live on the property where I'm at now. They have kids who are in college, and they're math people, and so their curiosity is high because they have a scientific kind of a background. And so I brought them out to a sighting, and we had limited success in this one place because you have to really, it's a thing where my signals have to be able to reach them, and that's key to it. So when we went to the second location, they came out in force, and it's nice to have people that you live with, knowing that you're not an insane person, looking at airplanes or something. And plus, when you see them really close, and I've been like 20 feet away from them, and they're like big, they're like the size of a car, and they're organic, and that's where I learned to signal, was by watching them. When they got really close to my house at the other place, they were doing the same signals with each other that I started mimicking. Mm-hmm. And that's how I was able to get their attention intentionally. And this time, in the second film, we bring scientists down to the the actual sighting. And this time we're very, very highly prepared with cinema cameras that we made sure were being used. There is footage in the movie, of course, that I filmed. But, this time the director, who is really great cinematographer as well, brought cinema lenses, brought cinema cameras. So, we're working with cameras that can photograph things in pure darkness and make it look almost like daylight. And we're not talking about night vision. I mean, I have no problem with people who sight UFOs with night vision. There was a guy that came down here during one of the just complete shit weather condition days, and with night vision was able to film a cluster of them right over the bowl, right in the exact spot that they come out of the time corridor in. And that made me feel good because, people really want to know that it's real. And when they come up here and they find out that, yes, it's definitely real, all right, that, it makes me feel good because I can hear the glee in their voice when it's happening for them, Yeah.
His name wasn't Ed Grimsley, was it?
No, I don't know who. It was a guy that just sent me a message on Facebook. We've been really trying to blanket social media this time around, and, get to the Instagram people, get to the Twitter people, Facebook, YouTube, and then we just finished a 2-year run on Netflix, which for a little tiny independent film is a very rare thing to even be on for, just a few weeks of the seasons.
Oh, yeah.
So we're proud of that. And now it's available on YouTube for, like $3.99 downloads. So, I mean, it's still available. And the trailer for the new one is out. And I'm very proud of that because it has Spanish subtitles, and the entire second film will have Spanish subtitles embedded throughout the entire film, because I was a little upset when the first film came out that it didn't have Spanish subtitles, and they weren't embedded, because I want to reach that audience as well, because obviously Mexico and those countries are real hot spots for this.
Yeah, that's very smart. That's very smart.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well, it gives us international as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have a real fondness because, like some of the people that saw our movie over in Belgium, in Sweden, in Italy, they really dug it. And, there's a lot of people that, kind of came late to the party when they found out that the movie was there, but got a chance to see it. And the whole idea of being able to communicate to a lot of people about something that's very serious to me, and that I think is very important to get a discussion about. And also, I'm like a gorillas in the mist kind of person. Okay. Most of the people involved in this subject, I'm not going to drop any names. Some of them are, that have been down here are rock stars. I'll just go so far as to say that. I'll leave it to your imagination. I've actually been down here. Oh yeah, I did it right in front of him. I've had some very prominent, very famous physicists, a black gentleman who you might be, familiar with. And I punked all of them. Now, they have their own opinions about what they saw, but all of their emails ended with, "But I will admit that I saw things that I cannot explain."
And that's something that's not normal.
After the big rigmarole about, whether a blinking light on an object means it's a plane or not, I'm like, let me explain something to you. In nature, almost everything knows how to camouflage itself. There's this little octopus that lives in the Bahamas, and in order to protect itself, it can change its color instantaneously and make itself look exactly like a fearsome little crab. Okay? So if a crab or an octopus can conceal itself in nature, I don't think anything that's, without physical form and is still pure conscious can't disguise itself as something else. And in the second film, because I had such, a hard-on to prove that certain individuals, no names will be mentioned, were wrong about the fact that not only are these things extremely intelligent, but they know how to mimic stuff in the air traffic. And because it's to their advantage to move around in the twilight to dark times, because they're not being observed as much, in daylight, they're very bright or they're very transparent. And there's really no way to mistake them for anything but what they are. So it's much more to their advantage to be, active in those times. And I've filmed them from dusk till early morning hours, the next day. So they're out there all the time. And even in cloudy and bad conditions, I've been able to get them to appear and do the same thing. So, it's something that I just go ahead.
Oh no! So are you still seeing, this? Me and Rob, I think, wrote them down. The same. What are the classifications you had, Rob? Because you have the best names for a lot of these different ships. I know there was the flying pizza.
Yeah, tell us about the stinkleberries.
Oh, and you can click on the show. Yes.
Yeah. Then there's the jellyfish, and then there's these orbs, which they're like a tribe. But the different various UFOs will also move along with the star systems. And, you can tell the difference between them and a satellite because they're obviously not moving. I use star maps, and I use flight schedules and, a lot of different apps that are in real time in 3D that let me look up into the sky.